We have to start, don't we, with Spurs as we welcome Don Hutchinson, Shaka Hislop and Stuart Robson to the show. Guys, I'm sure you all saw the comedy horror movie In Bruges. Well, Spurs had their remake tonight in Antwerp. It was, it was just a horror, basically, wasn't it? Going down by 1-0, despite having 57% of the ball. Jose Mourinho made 4 substitutions at half-time and made a 5th after 52 minutes. It couldn't alter the outcome of the game, and predictably, Mourinho was in a sour mood post-game.
It's not for me to individualize and to bring some names to the table. You prefer to do that than myself. You always ask me before matches why this player is not playing, why this player is not playing, why this player is not selected. Maybe now for a few weeks you don't ask me that because you have the answer.
The answer, and Jose Mourinho went one step further, going to Instagram. Look at that, he's down with the kids. Taking a photo of himself on the bus, saying bad performance deserves a bad result. Hope everyone in the bus is upset as I am. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. training. Jose on Instagram. Where do we start with this, guys? I'll start with you, Don. What did you make of what was a pretty shambolic display tonight from Spurs?
It was, and I thought Jose was spot on in his comments, and I think he's probably alluding to Alli when he dragged him off at half-time, like he has done of late when Alli's actually made the matchday squad. And I thought it was a tad arrogant, really, from Jose when he picked his starting 11 and he played Ben Davies at centre back. He played Alli. You know, he played a sort of second-string side, thinking it was going to be enough against Antwerp. Antwerp was sensational, by the way. I thought they played some cracking football. And I thought 1 flattered Tottenham because they could have won it by 2 or 3. But Jose will be fuming because that performance was nowhere near good enough.
Shaka, yeah, plenty of changes. Obviously, the game's coming thick and fast, but no excuses. I mean, this is Antwerp.
Yeah, but listen, Don is right. Antwerp played really well on the day, showed the form that they're in, sitting top in Belgium, 100% in this competition as well. But when you think Spurs against Antwerp, it should only be one result. And Jose Mourinho took the opportunity to give some of his fringe players and some of those that he's trying to work back into the squad, or so he keeps trying to tell us, an opportunity. And as much as he says in the post-game press conference that he doesn't want to call names, when you make 4 substitutions at half-time, I don't think you need to. It's there for everybody to see. The fact of the matter is Spurs have been playing incredible football all season long, ever since that opening day defeat against Everton. They should be sitting top of the Premier League, but for the most ridiculous handball decision you've ever seen against Newcastle United. And that's all he needs to say, that those players are trying to work their way back into the team and simply haven't done enough to somehow drag the press into this, and the questions that they ask about whoever, I thought ridiculous as far as post-game press conferences go. The performance was poor, and I don't think Jose Mourinho did anybody out there any favours either. It makes it all the more difficult for everybody.
And that's just it, isn't it, Robert? They've started to lure us into thinking, yes, they've turned the corner. You were starting to think they were title contenders, Robert.
Well, I think most people have said that they've got a really good squad. They're playing well at the moment. They've got a manager that's won before. But tonight proved that maybe the squad's not as big as you think, because Bergwijn, I don't think, is quite good enough to play at the top level in the Premier League. I don't think Dele Alli's playing with any confidence. He seems to have lost every sort of aspect of his game at the moment. Gareth Bale's certainly not fit, so he's not going to be much of an influence at the moment. The centre forward, Vinicius, who came off as well, he's good with his back to goal, but he's not going to run in behind too many people and score goals. And he chose to take off Lo Celso, one of the midfield players. If it was me, I'd take off Harry Winks, because I'm not sure what Harry Winks gives Spurs. I think he's too square with his passing. He goes backwards, he keeps the ball, but there's no penetration with his passes. And he was one of the major problems with Spurs' performance today.
Don, if you were in that locker room, how did Jose Mourinho's comments after the game go down? It was classic Mourinho, wasn't it? Just saying, listen, now you have your answer as to why some of these players aren't playing. What are you thinking if you're one of those players?
Well, I think you get an idea when Jose comes out and relays that message to the press. And Jose's always been the master. He's always been the master of going into press conferences and leaving a little bit on certain players without mentioning names. I think, if you're someone like Dele Alli tonight, who's been under so much pressure, You know, he's not in great form. We've all been there as players when you're in a bad moment in your career and you can't make matchday squads. And then when you get given the opportunity tonight, that was a chance for Dele Alli starting the game tonight to, put a real marker down to Jose and all the millions that are watching around the world, but especially your manager. You want to convince him, because Dele Alli needs now to get back to the training ground. He needs to work hard. He needs to look himself in the mirror. He needs to stay behind. He needs to get in early and do all the right things to convince Jose that he's worth a starting berth. He gets that tonight and doesn't perform. I mean, I lost count of how many simple balls Dele Alli give away. So at the end of the game, when Jose comes out in the conference and says, more or less exactly what we're thinking, if you're Dele Alli, and players know when you're in a dressing room and you're not playing well and a manager goes into a press conference and calls out one or two individuals without naming them, it's you. And that's tough to take. But, it's no charity football. You've got to work hard and you've got to take bad performances on the chin when you're flying like Dele has been over the last couple of years, rated as one of the best central midfield players that run on. He's attracted attention from teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid. He's a mile off that at the moment, but he can get back to the level, but it's going to need some hard work and he's going to need to convince Jose.
Yeah. Shagger, what sort of reaction do words like that inspire in players, in your view? If that was you sitting there and your manager had just come out and said that.
I'll take exception to it. Listen, I understand what Don is saying, but listen, as a player, when you haven't played well, and you have those discussions within the dressing room. But to have your manager go and say that to the press, I think it does more damage than good. We saw what happened when Jose did the same, and albeit with calling names at Manchester United, and how he started to lose individuals and eventually the dressing room up at Old Trafford. And my fear is exactly the same is about to happen here. Listen, if we use Dele Alli as an example here, it's always difficult coming in as a fringe player, coming into a team that you've made a whole lot of changes. There's no cohesion, there's no continuity. So it's a tough ask anyway. And then you don't play well, and you expect the manager is going to tell you exactly that in the dressing room, and you accept that. What you don't want, and what certainly I as a player wouldn't expect, is the manager to then go to the media and say exactly that. And without calling names, everybody knows exactly who he was pointing the finger at. At the same time, Jose Mourinho starts the press conference by talking about how good Antwerp were. And Antwerp were very good on the night. Stick with that. I don't see the reason to then throw your own players under the bus. I think that's counterproductive. Yet still somehow typical Jose
do you know where
Mourinho.
I think Jose was clever? Because Jose not mentioned any names. And all of a sudden now, if Dele Alli goes and knocks on Jose's door and goes, "Were you talking about me?" Jose goes, "What, you paranoid?" So straight away, Jose's smart because he's waiting for the players to come and then knock on his door, because the player knows he's played poorly.
The players.
I accept that, but that doesn't help. That doesn't. Him going to the media, even not calling Dele Alli's name, doesn't help Dele Alli. Whether Dele Alli has a lawyer in his corner when he goes knocking on Jose Mourinho's door doesn't matter. It doesn't help Dele Alli. And that, for me, is Jose Mourinho's first job, to help his players. Those who are struggling, help them get better. Those who are playing well, keep them on that kind of run. I think what he does doesn't do that. And that's neglecting his own duty.
Robbo, is there any way back for Dele Alli? We've talked about him a lot already, but it has been a precipitous and lengthy fall now for him from where he was 2 or 3 years ago under Pochettino. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Is there a way back for this player?
No, because, and we go back to the point, Jose Mourinho doesn't want convincing. He probably wanted two of those players not to play particularly well. So, as he just said, I can say to the press, see, that's why I'm not picking them. And Dele Alli knows that Mourinho doesn't fancy him. Probably Bergwijn knows that Mourinho doesn't really fancy him. That's never going to change because Mourinho doesn't want them to perform particularly well. He's stuck with the players that he's got in Lamela. He likes Lamela. He likes Lucas Moura. He likes Harry Kane. He likes Son. Dele Alli's never going to get back to the form that he showed 2 years ago while Jose Mourinho is the manager, because the manager doesn't fancy that player and is not going to give him that many opportunities. And when he does give him the opportunities, he's almost hoping that he fails.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.